I remember the first time I heard about Joint Commission, it was actually during my dietetic internship. And the chief dietitian at the time states that these individuals will strike the fear of God in you. And let me tell you, my first Joint Commission survey, yeah, they did. They were pretty intimidating. But once you know what they're looking for and also make it a daily practice, then there's really nothing to worry about. Hello everyone, my name is Kim. I am a registered dietitian nutritionist and a certified diabetes educator. Welcome back to my channel. So today we are going to be speaking about Joint Commission. So I am actually preparing for my 4th Joint Commission survey during the making of this video, and I just wanted to go through with you guys how a dietitian can successfully pass a Joint Commission survey. Now, everything that I'm going to be including is not a comprehensive list, but these are the key things that I will be focusing on. So if you haven't already done so, subscribe to this channel. So if you haven't heard of the Joint Commission, the JC, it is a non-for-profit independent organization that accredits and certifies acute and long-term care facilities within the United States. The Joint Commission ensures that patients are not at any type of risk for any adverse outcomes. So as I mentioned earlier, I am preparing for my 4th Joint Commission survey in the facility where I do work, which is a hospital. The Joint Commission comes every 3 years. And it is basically relatively easy for me to prepare myself. The problem becomes when you have to train other staff members. In this case, it is my department, the Food and Nutrition Services Department, especially when these staff members are relatively new to the whole entire Joint Commission process. What we're going to look at, we're going to first look at what is focused on related to the dietitian and then other aspects of the department. So with the dietitian, the first thing is the HR file. And I'm not really going to go into the details of the HR file because I don't manage my HR file. HR manages my HR file. So I know some things that HR did want me to get is my state licensure, a copy of my diploma, and also education verification. So for my education verification, I had to go through some clearinghouse to prove that I did go to Florida State University and received a diploma. So everyone's HR may ask them for different information. This is just the information that my HR asked me for to have in my file, just in case the Joint Commission were to look at it. So the next thing that is important for Joint Commission is an updated policy and procedures manual. And the facility where I work, the dietitian, actually it's not even the facility, it's the organization that I work for. The dietitian is the one responsible for the policies and procedure manual. And it may be different depending on which company you work for or what facility you work for, but because my company puts the responsibility of the dietitian on the policy and procedure manual, I have to know a little bit about clinical, actually a lot about clinical, and also about food service. So with the clinical assessment, something that is important for Joint Commission is that the nutrition assessment must be done by a registered dietitian nutritionist. And also there has to be some type of verbiage in there that states who screens the patient for any type of nutrition risk, the time frame that the dietitian has to see the patient once getting a consultation, and basic policy standards for nutrition assessment. So in the facility where I work, nurses are the ones that do the nutrition screening, and that must be completed upon admission. And I, as a dietitian, I have 48 hours to see that patient if they are at any nutrition risk. So I remember one question Joint Commission asked me. They stated if I were to get a consultation Friday evening at about maybe 8 p.m. So 48 hours from then will be Sunday evening at 8 p.m. Like, how do I rectify that time lapse, seeing that my policy states I have 48 hours to see that particular patient? So the way that I do that, I work every single weekend, every single Sunday, which I'm okay with that because I need my midweek break. So Wednesdays or Thursdays, I'm typically off, and then I work Sundays to make sure that my consults are being fulfilled according to what the policy states. So really, Joint Commission is seeing if you're going by your policies. Another thing that Joint Commission wants to check is if you have a nutrition follow-up policy. Basically, this policy states, for instance, at my facility, if I were to have a stable patient on parenteral or enteral nutrition, that I'm seeing them 1 time a week, or if it's an unstable patient that I'm seeing them 2 times a week, that is what's currently written in my policy. Or if I have a patient that's newly diagnosed with a disease, or they have any food and nutrient or food and drug interactions, how frequently am I seeing that patient? So they want to see these policies written, and they will do tracers to make sure that you are following your written policies. Another thing that Joint Commission pays keen attention to is how you're communicating your nutrition recommendations to the healthcare provider, and this could be the doctor, the nurse practitioner, or the PA. So at my facility, I do not have order writing privileges. Well, let me clarify that. I have dependent order writing privileges. I don't have independent order writing privileges. And if you guys don't know what that means, there's going to be another video coming up about that. I choose not to have independent order writing privileges. So they always ask me, well, you know, how do you communicate your recommendations? And I am very vigilant. I always have my phone, and I have the cell phone numbers of the physicians and nurse practitioners and PAs that I communicate with. So I'm always giving them a call and documenting the follow-up of our call. Another way that I keep my providers up to speed with my recommendations is through daily rounds. My providers are involved in daily rounds, and I also document my recommendations, my plan of care after rounding. So I'm going to pause right here. Every time that I seek to do a video, one of my neighbors is cutting their lawn. So if you hear the lawnmower in the background, that's what's going on. But I'm going to continue. So this one is very big in my facility, and it's actually the National Patient Safety Goals, the NPSG, if I said that right. So in my hospital, something that they drill down on us is 2 patient identifiers. And the 2 patient identifiers is the full name and the date of birth. So that basically means when I go in to educate a patient, I need to ask the full name and date of birth to make sure that I have the right patient that I'm speaking to. And this is also important for the food service aspect as well, and we're going to get into that a little later on. So another one is the diet manual. So the diet manual has to be accessible for every single employee that works in your hospital. So I do this 2 ways. Number 1, I have a hard copy of the manual, which is in the kitchen, and the house supervisor has the key to the kitchen in case the kitchen is locked. And I also have an electronic diet manual. So the diet manual has to be approved by the Med Exec Committee and the dietitian, which is myself, every 5 years. So Joint Commission is looking to make sure that you have those signatures, that nurses especially are educated on the location of the diet manual and they know how to access it. There have been other dietitians that I have spoken with at different accounts that actually got a citation because the nurses didn't know how to locate that diet manual. So it takes a lot of education on the part of the dietitian to go ahead and educate the nursing staff. And I do that simply by speaking to my charge nurses and asking them, like, hey, for your morning huddles, can I come? Can I say a quick spiel? I'll give you cookies and milk. So that's how I do it. And another thing is the ServSafe certification. So in the company that I currently work for, all managers are required to be ServSafe certified. So that includes myself, my director, as well as my executive chef. But I personally think, and this is something that I'm pushing for, that all supervisors should be ServSafe certified as well. So just in the event that a manager is not available, one of the supervisors who is on staff at the time should know the ins and outs of proper food handling and food safety. So that's the part about the dietitian. So now let's move on to the food and nutrition services workers. So as I mentioned earlier, the National Patient Safety Goals, those 2 patient identifiers, are very important. Something that I drill my team on is etiquette. So when they go into the patient's room, they first have to knock, announce who they are, ask if they can come in, and then ask the patient for the 2 patient identifiers. And of course, you know, you may have some patients that state, well, you know me, why are you asking? I'm asking for your safety. So the 2 patient identifiers, full name and date of birth, is something that Joint Commission will check. And I remember it was actually, was it 2? It was 3 years ago when Joint Commission came to my department. They actually followed one of our food service workers to see if they were adhering to the 2 patient safety identifiers. So it's important. So now moving on to the kitchen. So in the kitchen, there poses a lot of low-hanging fruit. And what I mean by low-hanging fruit is something that the surveyor can easily see that will give a citation. So for instance, improper hand washing technique, that 3-compartment sink, what you use to rinse and disinfect the pots and the pans, not having the specific concentration, not having the specific parts per million of that chemical sanitizer in that 3-compartment sink can get you a ding. Not calibrating the thermometer properly. Also, not writing in the temperatures of the freezer, of the coolers, of the refrigerators. And I call all of this low-hanging fruit. But we all know when Joint Commission comes in the building, the nerves start flowing. I remember the first time I heard about Joint Commission, it was actually during my dietetic internship. And the chief dietitian at the time states that these individuals will strike the fear of God in you. And let me tell you, my first Joint Commission survey, yeah, they did. They were pretty intimidating. But once you know what they're looking for and also make it a daily practice, then there's really nothing to worry about. So guys, this is it. This is how to successfully pass a Joint Commission survey. So I know for those dietitians that have not gone through a survey before, this can be something very intimidating. Don't be intimidated. If you have any specific questions, please feel free to leave it in the comment section below or reach out to me directly via email. Thanks for watching. As usual, remember to comment, subscribe, like, and share this video. Have a good day.